as a real estate guy.
Rich versus poor. Is the economy rigged? Ooh, this is very, very interesting. This is a nice one. All right, let's watch this. Rich versus poor. Is the economy rigged? Now, obviously, the reality of the situation is if you're poor, Fortnite L, you're just a fucking loser. Sorry. Listen, man, I think, yeah, I mean, I just genuinely don't. I think that opportunities are disappearing. Poor, just buy money. Yeah, just get a house. You're homeless, get a house. Opportunities are disappearing. You're seeing there's seeing a large gap between low skill and high skill like jobs, because automation is honestly destroying jobs. And automation isn't all bad because it makes products cheaper, but people are having less money. There's less jobs available. The unemployment rate isn't really the only thing that we should look at. It's very misleading. The labor force participation rate is very important as well. How many people are participating in the labor force? How many people are on unemployment and disability? People don't really think about these things. And I think that not only do we have an issue with the lack of availability of jobs, but there's also an issue with the way that our welfare system is constructed. I don't think is ideal. I think that if you live in an area that lacks financial opportunity or job availability or opportunity, going on to welfare is just going to keep you onto welfare, because you have a choice to make. Do you either want to make a particular amount of money on your welfare system, or do you want to potentially lose all of your benefits or some of your benefits and get a job and have a question, like a question every day of whether you can or can't support yourself? And so that's why I know we haven't talked about it in a while, but I'm an advocate for something like universal basic income, a less conditional form of welfare where people can get money, maybe a negative tax rate, whatever it's called, where you get money, the less money you make. But there's clearly an issue, and I don't think that our welfare is working. I think that we need to revitalize our welfare. But anyway, let's see what these sussy boys have to say.
I can make millions of dollars and use the exact same tax loopholes that a Donald Trump would use and pay effectively no tax. And does that make me a bad guy, or did I just study the tax code?
No, I think that this is a tax code problem.
It makes you a bad guy, yeah.
No, I don't think so. That's one of the problems too, man. Because here's the thing, bro. And you get your bag. You know, there are people who take advantage of unemployment. My perspective is like, do you? Everybody's trying to get their nut. And then there's people who take advantage of loopholes, tax loophole. Everybody's trying to get their nut, bro. Everybody's doing it, regardless of where you are. People are taking advantage of the system in some capacity. It's the system's fault for being so susceptible to being taken advantage of. They need to close up tax loopholes. Like, our taxes, I don't think are a problem. Like, the way that we have taxes, like how, like, the tax brackets for the rich in the United States isn't really a problem. It's how much taxes you can avoid. That's the fucking problem. More than anything else. There's so many exemptions for like dumb bullshit. It's insane. This is a new thing that they're doing. Not approved. Not approved. Get rid of it. Waste of time, bro.
Step forward
They
if
got
you
8
agree.
people this time.
Being poor is a choice.
Wow. You know what? I'm gonna hot take here. It depends on the person. Honestly, like, this is one of those things we tend to talk about these things as like a huge generality. I think that there are, like, absolutely every day being poor is less and less of a choice. 100%. Every single day it's less of a choice. There are fewer jobs that pay less. Prices are going up, et cetera, et cetera. But there are people, and again, it's going down, but there are people who do choose to be poor. There are people who choose to not be motivated and not work hard enough for themselves and like actually do something about the situation that they're in. And these are most of the people who have access to opportunity but just don't take it. Some people are just lazy. So do I think poor is a choice? I mean, it depends on the individual. I think it's becoming less of a choice as we move on, But I think that some people will just there's a conversation to have about how poverty is rising and how there's issues. We were just talking about it. But then there are some people who say that they go, oh, well, since that exists, I personally can't succeed. And it's like, well, that's you. Some people, it's just you, brother.
I do not want to be disingenuous to ignore systemic issues that we all experience.
And also, sorry to interrupt, but also it's interesting that the people who usually think that poverty is a choice are usually more successful people. A lot of times, well, some of them are just entitled douchebags. Some of them worked really hard, though. And like they're like, yeah, I worked hard as fuck. You do it too. You can climb out. And obviously, picking yourself up by your bootstraps isn't always the answer. But sometimes you do just need to work hard. You know what I mean? Like it seems like we're having the conversation of one or the other. Is there opportunity? Like working hard. Like, hey, I picked myself up by my bootstraps. You can do it too. And they're like, no, you can't. And they don't try. It's the people who are crying the most aren't the people who are trying. I think that's the biggest issue. They're not the people who are usually trying and like, fuck, I failed. Like I worked for like 10 years and I've just royally fucked. It's usually the person who's like usually younger and they're just like, you can't succeed. I'm just saying, bro.
But
maybe that's
I feel like it's 2021 and there's a lot of free resources. I mean, Facebook has a lot of free courses. I think that poor is also a mindset.
You can go on the metaverse and you can become a metaverse technician or something.
I agree. Originally, when I came out here, I started straight at the homeless shelter. I had to flee from domestic violence from my family. Most people in general don't choose to be poor, but since I've been here, specifically in LA, a lot of people outside, they don't want to come into the shelter because they'd rather be in the tents.
I mean, I grew up poor, so I have been on both sides of the coin, and I can reflect.
Yeah, I would expect like somebody who like grew up poor and was able to make it out to be like, yeah, see, it's a choice kind of a thing.
And look back on some of the lifestyle choices that I was making, some of the people that I was hanging around. So I don't think that people can initially control if they're born into poverty, but I think that there is a certain level of control that comes along with being able to have that determination and that resilience.
Can I have the disagree a step
I think
forward?
I agree with that. That's a good way to say that. For the most part, of course,
we need to realize that these people are on the street not because of their own choosing, but because of the system that we live in perpetuates these things.
If I could speak to that, I come from a family that once relied on welfare and food stamps, and I've been blessed enough to make millions of dollars in real estate. But had I bought real estate from 2005 to 2008, I'd probably be bankrupt today. I just bought it at the right time.
People wish to be rich, they don't want to be rich. The difference is, do you take action? That being said, I agree with a lot of your points you're making about people not really having the resources or the opportunity to have any kind of action plan.
Some people don't even want to be rich. Like, I don't want to be rich. Like, but I also don't want to be poor. I'm happy in the middle. And I would want to live in society where they could perpetuate people to lift themselves out of poverty through
I
programs.
thought this guy was poor or rich. I'm so confused.
And just be in the middle.
Billionaires should not exist.
All right, hot take. No, not really a hot take. Listen, I don't really care if billionaires exist. That's really the take that I come from. I don't give a fuck if a billionaire or a trillionaire exists. That doesn't matter to me. The what matters to me is that we have billionaires while we have massive issues going on. We have like massive structural issues going on. Like, I don't think that we should have billionaires when there are fucking homeless veterans on the street. Like, that they're sitting around like fucking people like that. Like, we've failed a lot of people, and it's bizarre that we have billionaires when there are people who are just like living on the streets with nothing. It's insane to me that we're not dealing with our problems in the correct way. So billionaires can exist for all I care, but until we provide the correct resources to help people at the bottom, they shouldn't exist. You know what's a cool idea? Just gonna throw it in here. My wife and I are talking about it. Some kind of tiny home structure for poor people. I know this sounds weird, but some kind of like tiny home fucking village that you can live in that costs like nothing, like $100 a month or something, possibly. Where you can go and you live there, and maybe some people can like work there, almost like a commune, or you can go and you can get a job locally, something like that to keep. I don't know, because like, you know, I think we have to have conversations about like where you're living now. Like, I live in Long Island, and I feel like there's an egregious amount of property people have, like these fucking huge lawns where like you could just put another fucking house there. You know, I would live in a tiny home as long as it was safe. I don't know, just some kind of an issue to solve this fucking crisis that we're having.
I don't see how anyone could ever spend $1 billion. It's not a necessity to have that much money, and I feel like there is a certain cap in which like you can completely survive and thrive with this amount of money, and then if you surpass that, you're just hoarding.
And then we've seen what people with billions of dollars are doing with their money. They're going to space for fun. Like, clearly, if we tap...
Well, really what they're doing, that's not even the issue. What they're doing is that they just literally take that money and they can just invest it, and they can just live off of like the fucking dividends and the investments. Like, that's the problem. That's a huge fucking problem.
Tax those people properly, get their wealth, and distribute it to people who need it. That'd be a much better use than going to space for fun.
You know, but I think space is cool, you know. I want to go to space I don't think I want to. I have to do all the gravity training. I ain't doing that, bro. Fuck that shit.
Personally, I don't think there's an issue with billionaires existing. The issue for me is that they need to be held accountable the same way poor people do. And I'm talking about the justice system.
When you look at a lot of billionaires who have gotten that way because of the just incredible amount of value they've given.
I mean, like, sure. Okay. Like, I agree they should be held accountable to the same degree, but also I'm more interested in like the wealth redistribution aspect.
To society. I won't even talk about a huge, crazy billionaire. I'll talk about Jay-Z, who's a billionaire. He made amazing music. That's how he became a billionaire. And so I don't think it's the government's job to interject and say, okay, you have too much, we need to give it away. I mean, it would also never happen in any other arena. No one's gonna go, hey, Simone Biles, you have too many gold medals. We're gonna take them from you and we're gonna give them to the other people who weren't as talented as you.
Well, so the difference between gold medals and money is that you don't, me personally, I have no gold medals, but also it's not hurting me. I'm not dying because I don't have any gold medals. There are some people, hot take, that are dying because they don't have money. It's slightly different. It's a little bit different. It's just a tiny bit different. Like this much. It's just this different. It's almost there. But also, no one died because they didn't get a gold medal. So I feel like weird comparison. Just a bizarre comparison. Very disconnected.
Completely agree.
I completely disagree. I feel like that is a government's job. And Jay-Z, like you said, Jay-Z made his money from music. That's his labor. He's a musician. He's selling his talent. But then when he invested in the alcohol, then he's using other people who are harvesting the wheat, the agave. They're breaking their back. They're using their labor.
So do you think that he should invest in those people? Should they just like say, the hell with your dreams, I'm not going to invest in you?
I'm saying.
What about the
No, I think you should be able to invest, and I believe in capitalism, but we should also create a better floor, a poverty floor that helps people get opportunities. That's it. I mean, it's very simple. It's probably not simple in execution, but like you create a poverty floor. I'm a UBI guy, $1,000 a month, everybody 18 and older. So maybe you have a different idea, but that's my thing.
the job?
What do you mean?
They're having jobs.
Yeah, but how much are they getting paid for the jobs? Oh, those jobs in the third world where they're getting paid pennies.
Yeah,
and then
versus
Jay-Z
your
makes
job.
millions off their labor.
How much do you pay your employees?
You think harvesting
than
isn't going to
enough?
exist if Jay-Z doesn't invest?
If I may interject, I pay my employees like incredibly well, and I let them choose their own hours. Someone who works for me is a single mother. I pay her $50 an hour, and
So here's like one of those problems. It's very easy to like be very like, I pay my employees a lot of money when you have an industry that has a lot of money in it, I guess you'd say. Like for instance, if I owned like a fucking cybersecurity firm, I'm paying my guys a lot of money, obviously, because I get a lot of money, but also it's a field where it's like difficult to get people trained correctly. But like if I own if I own a chain of convenience stores, I'm probably paying them as little as possible because it's a low skilled labor job. That's where the issue comes into, especially when you can be like, well, I could either pay these people minimum wage of like whatever, $10 an hour, depending on where you live, or I could just ship it off to China for like fucking 25 cents an hour. I don't know, something like that. It's a lot more complicated. I understand the idea of like, oh, well, we're giving people jobs, but also are those jobs like paying enough? Maybe. And then we question, how do we get them to pay enough? Do we force the businesses to pay more? Or do we redistribute wealth that we've taken from people and create a poverty floor, like a subsidized income, like a UBI? That's where I'm at. So you can get your minimum wage of $7.50 an hour, but then you also get $1,000 a month on top of that. So, quick maths, you're making about 15 grand from your job and then another 12 grand from your UBI, untaxed on the UBI. So like it's basically a little bit more. So you're making like $27,000 a year. Is it perfect? No. But if you had two people married together, not living in like fucking New York, 52 grand a year, you could probably raise a family on that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I think that people that are providing jobs and opportunities, you can hate on them all you want, but at the end of the day, like nobody would work that job if it wasn't in some way, shape, or form worth it.
People who make $1 billion get a fraction of the value they create. Everybody here who has a business understands that. Even Jay-Z only gets 15 cents a record he sells. Okay?
Yes, that's because he got exploited by the record label.
Is that true?
Who's using his labor to make money. It's the same thing.
You're a communist. I couldn't spell Jay-Z the correct way. I'm fucking embarrassed. I don't know how much he makes per record, but like I don't even know if that's true. But there's more complicated to that because it's not just that. I mean, he gets the record that he does like whatever live shows and he has whatever other industries. I mean,
using this word exploiting like you understand the record business of which I'm in, okay? Record labels back hundreds of artists. Do you know how many go busto? Yeah. Okay? They're taking risk in an artist by the tapes, paying the engineers, marketing, etc. They're exploiting them. They're taking on a bet. And they can't just give everybody 50-50. They'll go bankrupt. You don't understand the record business and you're just yelling out these words exploiting like you know what you're talking about. But
so that's one of the problems when you start personalizing that. Because like, yeah, I don't know the record industry at all. But I do know if that you can make billions of dollars in the record industry, that maybe you could take some of that money and you can redistribute it in the bottom. I also know that there's a lot of tax loopholes that the record industry, like any other industry, is probably using. Well, I even say exploiting because they exist, and so they're not even paying their fair share. Yeah,
You don't.
That's why
they're not exploiting.
That's why there's one Jay-Z and not millions.
I don't like the general term of exploiting. Like there are like more exploitative. I don't know, exploitative. What the fucking word is it? Industries, of course. Like I do think that Amazon exploits their like factory workers when they don't let them take a piss. I think that's exploiting somebody. That doesn't mean that everybody's being. I think that like Uber drivers are being exploited, or Grubhub people are being exploited. How much money they fucking spend. You know, it depends on the industry. You know.
Exactly.
That's why I'm not an advocate for a record label. People working for record labels making more money. I don't really care about that. But I am an advocate for like a redistribute wealth, and it's like a program. You know.
Ask a question
because it helps the people at the bottom more than anybody else. That's what I'm more focused on. We can sit here, we can identify what industries are and aren't exploitative or exploiting their workers, but we do know that if you're poor, there's a higher chance you're being exploited, so we should give more money to poor people.
How you define exploited and why you're saying that.
I'm using exploited in the Marxian term where your labor creates value and then your employer takes that value and distributes it unevenly to themselves and then leaves the rest for the workers. That's exploitation.
That just means that every contract is exploited. Like it doesn't mean that everybody's being exploited. That's just like too extreme to me. You know, that's kind of crayons. Yeah, you know.
My name is David. I work for Disney in the entertainment character department, and I make around $33,000 a year.
How's your experience been working at Disneyland?
Very racist, I would imagine.
My experience working at Disneyland is very mixed. The workers themselves, like my coworkers, are amazing people. Unfortunately, the company is not so great. They don't pay us that much. They have enough money to pay us more. I think
they probably could. I don't really know the specifics of how Disney works. I'm assuming he works in like Disney, like he's a Disney employee at Disney Studios or whatever. Or whatever the studios, you know, Disneyland or Disney World, whatever the fuck it is. I'm assuming that's what he does. So I don't know, you know. You
should just pay us more.
But yeah, Walmart I think is a much better example. Yeah, absolutely than Jay-Z.
I don't think they're gonna.
Bro, you know how I spelled Jay-Z when I was looking it up? I was like, how do you spell Jay-Z? So I put J and then like Z-E-E. I don't know why. I just didn't think it was J-A-Y-Z. Fucking embarrassing, bro.
To do that, that's why I'm advocating for a union to bargain in our favor.
My name is Ginny, and
Jay-Z, baby. I know. Isn't that fucking pathetic? I know, dude.
I run a software design agency, and this year I'm going to be taking home about $400,000. When I started my business, that was like all consuming for me. Everything I did in my life was for business. And so I think my partner felt a lot of neglect. And so a lot of our arguments, a lot of the times that we had issues were because of my absence.
The economy is rigged.
I don't know. These are very blanket terms. If I had to choose a yes or no, I'd probably say yes. I think that like it's so hard to make these general prescriptions though, because there are some industries that probably aren't rigged. Like I wouldn't say that like a computer tech industry would be rigged per se, but like maybe Walmart is. But also if you kind of go further, what do they say? The economy.
The economy?
I don't know, but maybe the whole structure. I mean, like, listen, if you go out and you make like fucking $20,000 a year and you get a goddamn fucking ticket because you accidentally went a little too fast, that's like $150. You're fucked for the week. If you're fucking some rich asshole, you don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like flat tax is really literally just like taxing poor people. It's pretty ridiculous. And I understand, like, you should punish people for doing the bad thing, but then you have really poor communities. Like, we talk about this. I don't remember the specific community it was, but Michael Brown, I think, is a really good example here, right? Because the whole Michael Brown situation, the police officer in the DOJ report, it was said, like, oh, he was justified in shooting Michael Brown because he was charging at him, et cetera, et cetera. But that same DOJ report, people don't really understand this, was talking about, said that like the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment rights were being violated of those black people in the community. And one of the ways they were doing that is by over-ticketing them for like fucking everything. And so it creates this situation where if you're being constantly oppressed, you don't make a lot of money, and then you're getting ticketed for dumb bullshit, where in like a more financially sturdy community, you don't get tickets for bullshit. it's going to start to oppress you. Like, dude, there's some dumb fucking weird law. Like, for instance, if you park the wrong way on the street, you can get a ticket. I don't know if you guys know that. How many of you have gotten that ticket? Probably not a lot. In the poor communities, that might be a much bigger issue, where like it's really up to the police officers, and it's up to the police officers how much they want to or not ticket. Like, some laws are just kind of fucking stupid, and really these tickets are flat taxes. And they end up fucking people. So there's a lot of ways in which shit just gets fucked. I do think that there's a level of rigging. I mean, like nepotism, like, yeah, but what is it called? I forget the term, but yeah, how hard you work absolutely can, and I think will determine where you end up in life. But also, nepotism is massive, right? Like some people will definitely get like they'll get promoted in their industry. Based on how well they work. But then there's also people who just have your fucking dad is like a fucking this, that, and the other thing, and you just get the job. Both of those things do exist. It depends on the industry. Like, my wife is a social worker, so there's a shortage, so she works hard, so they'll promote her. But then there's other industries like fucking CEO bullshit where it's like, oh, my son needs a job. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to give him some cushy bullshit job that pays too much. You know what I'm saying? It really depends. And this is why it's so hard to make these general prescriptions, because different people come from different aspects. Like the one guy who's a record label guy, there probably isn't a whole lot of, abuse or neglect or rigging or any bullshit that really is in that industry. Maybe there is. But then there's a guy that works at fucking Disney. There's probably a lot more issues there. So these two are clashing with their like anecdotal perspectives, and they're not looking at everything as in a more general context where there are abusive industries and then there aren't abusive industries. I think that's the problem.
Is rigged.
I would actually...
If you're born in a rich family, you have more opportunities. And as someone who is poor, living paycheck to paycheck, you're stuck having to apply to jobs and settle for things that you don't like instead of being able to follow your passions.
I agree and disagree. I agree that it's rigged to incentivize certain areas and behaviors, like we have millions and millions of farm subsidies, so it supports agribusiness. It may support one area like real estate or capital investment over labor, but I don't think it's generally rigged to basically keep the rich guy rich and the poor guy poor.
I don't really think that. I don't know if it's rigged to keep the poor guy poor. I think, but maybe it is to keep the rich guy rich. I mean, like, listen, it seems, my understanding is that people in Congress get a lot better returns on their stocks and whatnot than other people, because they have a level of influence on how well particular industries do, so they can vote in favor of industries that they may have invested in. I think that's rigged. I don't know if I'd call that the economy, but I think that it's part of the system. So, like, yeah, it can gotta be rigged,
That part I'll disagree. But there are certain policies, like the reinvestment in productive people's hands for building real estate. I would say that's a good thing. Right?
When you say productive people, like, do you just mean people with money?
No, I mean people that actually take that money, organize people, put it to work, and create value. That's what I mean by productive people.
But who creates the value? It's the workers who create the value.
Oh my God, shut the fuck up. That's what I'm saying. Like, I understand. Like, there can be abuse. Like, again, Walmart, good example of I think that shitty business practices. But then there is also something to be said that when, like, giving somebody that is intelligent with money, giving them money to do a particular project, and especially if they have the resources and they know like who they can get with different things, like, oh, I can get this person to do this, that can be a big benefit too. It's just
listen, there's people who take risk and they risk their money. That's creating value. What you discount is the person willing to risk their savings, okay, and provide capital for that venture and to be paid less. So if it goes busto, the worker still gets paid, the investor doesn't. If it goes well, the worker gets paid and the investor makes money. You discount the role of capital and savings in any type of venture. Like, my mom didn't want to be rich. She wanted to be a school teacher and work and do that and live in the middle ground, and that's fine. But there are people like me who want to take a lot of risk and get a lot of reward. And we put that capital to work. And
I will say one thing, like, yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think that we should allow individuals to take risks and whatnot. But then you also have the other side where, like, what happens if this person fails? You can go bankrupt. And I know that sounds weird, but we do have a lot of social safety nets that you can take advantage of if your investment goes south. That will make it so that you don't fucking die. That you'll still be able to have like okay, I have to go bankrupt, and it hurts your credit, but like, it will generally absolve you from any of your shit or of your debts. There's a lot of social safety nets, so it makes sense to, because you have that social safety net, to provide social safety nets for people who aren't in as advantageous or whatever in a situation that's as good as he's in. I don't think that would be an issue.
You should respect that. Hi, my name is Bill Perkins. I run
Bill Perkins, bro. Come on.
a hedge fund. I do investments and other things. I manage my own money. How much I make annually? Sometimes
I feel like investment. I don't know, bro.
lose money, but I'd say on average over 10 million a year. I took care of my dad in the last years of his life. He died broke. I did not inherit my money. I made it myself. I really don't care about the money. Money is a tool for me to have the experiences that I want to have out of life.
What does he mean his dad died broke?
Made it myself. My dad in the last years of his life, he died broke. I did not inherit over 10 million a year. I took care of my dad in the last years of his life. He died broke. I did not experiences that I want to have out of life.
I don't know. I'm only asking because I think generally speaking, and I'm not going to apply this to this person specifically, but generally speaking, one of the problems is a lot of times people will bring up this point. They'll say like, I didn't inherit my money. My parents don't have a lot of money, et cetera, et cetera. They'll use these talking points. But it's not just about what money you may or may not inherit. It's about where did you live? What school system did you have access to? What jobs were available in the area? So if you grow up in like a robust area with really good educational opportunities and the ability to work, it doesn't matter if you inherit money or not. I have inherited $0 from my mother because she's alive. But I grew up in a decent school system. Well, I grew up with special education, well, not special education, sorry, double honors, accelerated bullshit classes. But I grew up in a decent spot. My mom had money. She had access to money, so she had access to tutors. She had access to the ability. Well, I didn't really take tutors, but access to mental issues. Okay, I have ADHD. That's something that I had to overcome. My mom had the money and the insurance to be able to have me go to therapists and deal with my fucking problems. That's what I'm trying to say. It's about the resources that you have available in your area. So she had money. She had a decent amount of money. I've inherited none of it, but I'm also now making a decent amount of money, even though I'm a high school dropout. I don't know why, but you get my point. Maybe I'm not the best example, but you have access to resources in your particular area, and that's a very big issue as well, or a very big difference as well. You know, like the local high school that not the local high school, excuse me, the community college in my area has computer training in it. Not every area has community colleges with computer science degrees, you know, and that's a big deal. That's a very growing job. The schools in my area now, I believe, are starting to offer computer science help. We had a computer lab. Not all schools have even a computer lab. I had a computer lab 15 years ago in my schools. Could you imagine if your school didn't have a computer lab? You're now behind on computers. Sounds like not a big deal. Massive deal. Very big issue. Because if you don't have access to computers, then you're not going to have access to a massive array of jobs that are very important and high paid. So, you know, this is just generally speaking. It's not just about how much money you inherit. It's about like where you grew up, what opportunities you had.
And there are many experiences that I want to have.
You have to have a certain level of awareness and knowledge to know the rules of the game. And I think that there are barriers put in place to kind of prevent people from knowing the rules, but I think that it's out there and you can have access to it, and it's, you know, I think that knowing the rules is different.
I know the rules, and I think they're disgusting. That's why I want to change them.
Why don't you play the game then? I mean, you can
I think they're disgusting. Why would I want to play the game?
As a real estate guy, I can make millions of dollars.
play the game then. I mean, I think that
I
knowing the
agree
rules
with
is
you.
different.
I know the rules, and I think they're disgusting. That's why I want to
Why
change
don't you play
them.
the game then? I mean, you can
I think they're disgusting. Why would I want to play the game?
See, that's what I'm talking about, though. This is what I'm talking about. This is the problem with fucking communists, bro. Is that they'll say the system is rigged and it's shitty, so that they're just not going to participate in actually trying to advance themselves in the system, and they're gonna that's a problem. That kid seems relatively he seems pretty intelligent. He speaks well. He could probably get a decent job, right? A lot of the times, the people who don't have access to jobs are usually like less people who haven't had the access to decent education system, and they just have no fucking choice. Like, they literally have no fucking choice because they just didn't get the education when they were growing up, and they're just shit out of luck now because low-skilled labor jobs are being offset by technology, and they literally can't do they can't do anything else. And what's even more interesting is these intelligent people that are a lot of times underachievers that don't want to work hard. They're sitting in low-skilled labor jobs when they could be in higher-skilled labor jobs, taking jobs away from people who can only work low-skilled labor jobs. And I was one of them. Honestly, I'm a smart guy. I worked as a bus. I managed like a cleaning crew for a bus company. I was very good at my job because I had access to good educational opportunities. So I'm a smart guy. I could have done something else. I sat in that job like a lazy fuck because it was easy to me. I took away a job from somebody who may not have had the same access to opportunity or education because I was being a lazy little fuckface. Whereas, like, if I went to school, and I started going to school actually before I just magically got fucking like big on TikTok. I got very lucky. But when I was going to school, I was going to school for computer science at like 30 years old, and I was doing well. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times we have a lot of young underachievers who don't want to work hard. They say everything's rigged, fuck it, I don't care. Or like, I don't want to participate in the system because like it's just so egregious. And it's like, bro, you should participate in the system, make money, and then try to be the change you want to see. You know, like just like Hassan, like how he does. Like how he does that. You know, he's rich now and he gives so much money back and he like holds to his moral values. Like maybe you should just try to be more like Hassan, guys. You know what I'm saying?
As a real estate guy, I can make millions of dollars and use the exact same tax loopholes that a Donald Trump would use and pay effectively no tax. And does that make me a bad guy, or did I just study the tax code?
It makes you a bad guy, yeah.
You think so?
If you do that, yeah.
Why would it make you bad? Like, that's just the bad system. See, this is what happens. You blame the wrong person. If you blame the person for taking advantage of the resources of the system rather than the system being broken itself, you're a fucking idiot, honestly. You should be like, yeah, that's a good point. We should remove those tax loopholes because people wouldn't be able to be as rich.
Following the law to a T.
The law is wrong, yeah.
Why is it wrong? It's the law.
I'm not.
You think just because the law is always right?
No, certainly not.
No,
Certainly.
I'm not saying
but
that.
that's my point.
I'm not
No, the
saying
law is
that,
written
but
to encourage investment, is which they want. So he's investing. So like the law is written to encourage certain things. If you disagree
Yes, I know Hassan doesn't hold his moral values. That was the joke, guys. Come on.
with it, you can go lobby and change. But he's not a bad guy.
I know you mentioned that there are barriers in place that do keep people.
Someone said it's not about the skill of the job. It's about how much money you spend to college to get the job. Kind of, yes and no. Like it's about the skill of the job, how much money the job yields, and how much money you have to put into getting the job, and how much, like, if you can pay to get into that area, like if you can afford the tuition to get there as well. Like obviously tuition needs to be reduced. Classes are too expensive. Like the price of school is going up. A big part of it's because of administrative costs, where they're trying to get people that just get people. Right? It's like, hey, I'm going to hire administrators so that you can get more people into our industry or school and whatnot. It grossly inflates the cost of these colleges, and it doesn't do anything for the students at all. It's ridiculous, right? And then there's also classes that you don't need that you are forced to take. You know, like if you're doing like a computer science major, I don't think that there's a really big reason that you need to have like a fucking English class necessarily. Or if you're trying to be a primary care physician, you may not need to go and do like an advanced math class. There's a lot of like bullshit classes that you have to take to go into certain jobs that fuck shit up. And it's one of the reasons why doctors cost so much, because it's hard to become a doctor, and it should be difficult. But should it be as difficult? What the fuck am I saying? Do we need to have like more advanced classes in something like math if you want to be a primary care physician? What are they really doing? Math oriented? Nothing. You know, it's very basic math. How many milligrams? What they need to know more is how to talk to people. Very big issue. How to like talk to people, treat them the right way, et cetera, et cetera. And I think if anything, when it comes to doctor fields, you have an issue where you have like a lot of these more science leaning individuals, like primary care physicians, where they aren't very personable because you're forcing people that are more math minded to become like primary care physicians, and math minded people aren't super empathetic. So there's a lot of structural issues in there, and part of the problem is just that people get unchecked. Like there's unregulated. I think there's an issue with the amount of subsidies schools get. It's like a community college. I think gets like a third from the federal, third from the state, and a third from the person. And they're just like, yeah, fuck it. You know, we're just going to give you whatever you need for the most part. The government should say like, hey, you can charge as much as you want, but if you don't get these costs in line here, then we're not going to give you any money. So if you don't lower your costs, we're just not going to give you money. And they can either not take government money, which means that they won't be able to sustain themselves, or they can cut their costs down and they can get kids to be able to go through schooling.
Kind of in impoverished conditions, but I don't think that we all acknowledge like the mental.
Well, that's where I was going. So if I can reflect on myself, I mean, I remember when I was living in poverty, I was just trying to survive. So I didn't even have the brain capacity to try or the willpower to kind of even desire to access the rules of the economy. But I mean, I had an epiphany, and I literally woke up one day and I was like, I cannot live the rest of my life like this. And I don't care if people call me lame, square, they're going to question my blackness. I mean, I don't care. I'm getting out.
Well, speaking about blackness, do you think there's a correlation between people from the African diaspora and people of color and poverty? You don't think there's like a relationship there?
It's true that, I belong to a community that makes less than certain other communities. That's true. Significantly less. But you can't look at differences between groups and say it's only because of systems. Systems played a huge deal to it. I'm not discounting that at all. Like, it's a real big deal, and we're working to change that. But also, statistically, like, people from my old neighborhood and people, around in these communities, they spend about 50% more on shoes than people who are not in those neighborhoods. And it's like, man, that...
Well, not only that, Todd, but I think I looked up a recent statistic that said that Asian households, their children tend to study 13 to 15 hours a week, where in a black household, it's like 3 hours a week. I know.
So there's a lot here. I don't want to be too presumptuous. Is that the word you use? Or, to assert too much in this situation. Because this is more of a black issue. But... this is one of the problems when we talk about issues in communities that aren't doing as well, which are usually communities of color. It's something that we don't have honest conversations about. So there is an issue of the system holding people back, and then there's an issue of a culture in some communities that holds people back. Now, you absolutely can make an absolutely good, realistically speaking, that culture. Let's say the black community, for instance, right? There is an issue in like the black community. They were identifying it. Like there's issues where some people are, they buy frivolous bullshit status symbols over taking their money and like saving it, for instance. Where that's not as much of an issue in like a white community. You would generally say that would come, like, honestly, I genuinely believe that comes from a history of like systemic oppression, of course. I mean, you had a group of people who were forced to work hard, and now it trickles down to like, spending money on frivolous status symbols. I don't know why, but like, yeah, there's a cultural issue, probably stems from systemic racism, but that's an issue like that we can't take care of. Like, there's nothing I can fucking do about it. We could provide access to opportunity and resources and like redistribute wealth, but that's an issue like within the black community that like black community leaders need to talk about. Because even as I'm talking about it, like, I don't know what the fuck I'm really talking about because I've never been in that situation. There's not a lot that I can say or do. And so you need a mixture of providing access of opportunity, but then also strong community leaders that can help people in their own community deal with their own individual problems that I, myself, and most people in my chat probably aren't even educated on. Which is why I'm a UBI guy, because it's like, it's just money. Here's some money, and then like strong community leaders to help direct that money in the correct direction. There's a lot of very complicated issues there. I think one of the problems is a lot of like non-black people or non-BIPOC people try to assert like this is the solution for this. And when you hear something like that, a lot of times you have like a lot of like more white saviors that when somebody brings up a point of like, yeah, there's higher crime in a particular community or they don't spend their money on the right thing, they're like, oh, well, it's all because of racism. Like, I understand that. But like, you need to empower the communities and the community leaders to do what's right for their shit. That's why like somebody like Dr. Umar, even though he's like racist and fucking like homophobic, stronger community leaders that talk about these issues, because I've seen him talk about that before. Like, that's kind of what you need in like communities. People being like, hey, why are you spending money on this bullshit? Instead of like something else, So
you said it's not like a race issue, but when you think of...
And then there's also like an issue in some communities. I've talked to like especially Nigerian Americans face this issue a lot, where if they work hard at school in black communities, they're shamed for being too white in those black communities. And like being white is a bad thing in a black community. Like, oh, you're so white. Like, why are you working hard? And they kind of shit on you for trying to be successful. There's a lot of issues,
about the way that we got here as like African people, it was a race issue. We didn't have a chance to discover America like the other people did. So I feel like how you had mentioned that Asian Americans, they study more than black households. You don't feel like those communities are kind of socialized in their upbringing to be more inclined to care about their finances, as opposed to like African Americans, we would rather look rich than actually be rich. I think that's a part of like our community.
It's a culture, it's a choice.
Well, it's
not a choice.
I don't
to a certain extent.
I think it's a choice.
2021.
I do think it's a choice. I'm not gonna say it's not a choice, but I'm saying, do you feel like some...
No, this is the guy I'm talking about. He's heard of the conversation. You have two black people who've experienced black communities having a conversation about black issues. And this guy's like, no, it's not a choice. It's not a choice. There's like with any culture, there's a choice to engage and there's a choice to not engage. Obviously, though, you're usually more inclined to engage in the culture because you're very susceptible to what people think around you. And it can be very difficult to escape that mentality. We all do it in everything. Like, have you ever done something you normally wouldn't have done in like high school? Like, bro, you're shamed if you ask a girl out in high school or middle school, so you don't do it. You know what I mean? And I know that's a small scale, but like, think about that. Like, you think about the way that you felt as a kid when you wanted to do something but you didn't. A thing that would have been good for you, like maybe you would have fucking like played a fucking sport. or sang in the choir, or asked a girl or a boy out. And he didn't do that because you knew you'd be shamed for not doing it or doing it. That's kind of a fundamental human experience, and it takes a lot to overcome that. A lot of times you need like stronger family structures, you know? And not to be an asshole, but there does seem to be a correlation between our welfare system being expanded into black communities and the decline of the black community, which to me signals that our form of welfare in the United States needs to be changed and is a form of systemic oppression. And it hasn't necessarily helped, where like we need a better form of welfare that would be providing more opportunity, like a universal basic income. You know, there's just a lot going on there, but we don't really acknowledge that like our welfare may be a form of systemic oppression. Even though I do think it is, because I think that it forces people it forces people to maintain the conditions that they welfare is supposed to get rid of, right? If you're told, hey, you'll get $10,000 a year if you don't make more than $10,000. Hold on a second. Somebody's trying to get in my house. Spooky stuff. Spooky stuff. Maybe there's a ghost in here. Demi Lovato, come save me. Sing to the ghost. Like I was saying, if you're in a community and if you're told like, hey, if you make less than $10,000 a year, we'll give you like another $10,000 in welfare. Well, you're going to be afraid to make more money, because then if you make more money, you'll lose your welfare and your way of life. Oh, I made $12,000 this year. Well, goodbye to your fucking welfare and your way of life. I think that's the problem. That's one of the problems with like our welfare system. Anyway.
Some people don't have the same choices as other people's in different communities.
I think some people don't have the mental capacity to allocate the energy to learn the rules of the game, quote unquote, because their instincts are kicking in to just survive.
I think trauma plays a heavier role than we like to account for. Trauma is the reason why I'm here. I come from a family, a heavily cult Islamic family, and the things that I was doing in my life they didn't agree with. They pretty much sent people to my house to kill me. I was set up multiple times. They hacked my social media pages, both my iPhones, you know what I mean? So I don't want to just kind of ignore trauma as if it doesn't really matter in terms of what you are capable of doing, because people that are traumatized and people that do deal with a lot of oppression tend to get some of their choices removed.
I can acknowledge that, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does seem that that's an extreme case, though. Like, I don't think that most people's experience is that they'll do not be killed if they try to escape their particular community. More of like socially shaming.
My name is Hanifa. I'm an author, and I'm currently homeless, so I don't make any money right now. I grew up Muslim my entire life.
Just get a home. If you're homeless, get a home, you silly goose. Like, what are you doing?
And in Islam, it is permissible to marry your cousin. So my family enforced sexual acts in between cousins. It led to me having to flee my hometown and come all the way to California, which is 2,600 miles away, just so that I can avoid being killed.
I was going to make a joke about how I wish I was Islamic so I can fuck my cousin, but it felt like I would have been a little tone deaf. What I will say, because we're having a very UBI-centric conversation, is this is one of the problems where people will experience some kind of an issue in some kind of a community. Like, it could be like a gay kid or a trans kid, and they experience abuse from their parents. And there might be shelters for these people, but those shelters are very limited. They're not always in every area. It is very limited access to like that resource. And so like $1,000 a month to a fucking poor gay or trans kid could be profoundly positively impactful. Is that a good sentence? I don't know. Because it gives them, it's like, okay, I have this money now. I can escape. Maybe I'll stay in a hotel. Maybe I'll travel here. Maybe there's a community that's more accepting in this area, and they could try to help themselves more. You give them the ability to help themselves. And it's very interesting because I have a friend, and he used to work in New York State. There was New York State set up a thing, I don't know what you'd call it exactly, to help people from the Orthodox, I think it was the Orthodox Jewish community, escape that community. Because there was abuse in there, because they are generally exempt from the same educational opportunities, which is a big problem, because then they don't get the education to be able to leave their community. And there's just a lot of shit going on that kind of keeps people in their place, so to speak. And so there was a thing established to help people like get out and help them, go somewhere else, because there was abuse in this. And I'm not saying that all Jewish culture is abusive. I'm just saying that this particular community. That's probably happening in other communities. It sounds like you said she was Islamic, I believe. There might be happening in that community. But that doesn't mean that do you think that they had that particular institution to help her escape? Probably not. So like this is kind of what I'm talking about. You know, like if you know it, where if you don't have access to a particular thing that you really need, because they haven't established, like there might be other communities in other areas that do the same thing that happens in New York, but they don't have an institution to help people escape. And so, like, if you don't have that, you know, you're fucked. Where a UBI would help put power in your hands and help you escape potentially for yourself.
I've worried where my next meal will come from.
Yeah, man. Sometimes I'm worried it's either going to come from a home cooked meal or from McDonald's. You know what I mean? McDonald's is so delicious, but it's so bad for me. I haven't had it in a while, bro. Bro. What the fuck is happening today? Dude, I gotta check on something. Be right back. What the fuck, dude? Okay. Alright. Fucking ghost is fucking around me, bro. My front door wasn't closed all the way. The storm door wasn't closed all the way. Okay.
Me and my partner right now are applying for EBT because we are just like living check to check.
What was that? What was that interaction?
And my partner right now are applying for EBT because we are.
What is this? What is this thing? What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this interaction? This guy's like, yeah, man, I'm really struggling financially with my partner, so we're applying for EBT to help us. And this guy's, yeah, awesome. That's not good. I doubt that guy wants to be in a situation where he has to apply for it. It would be good if he didn't have to. Why the fuck is he fist bumping him? This is some like saviorism shit. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
We are just like living check to check.
And then he's like, I guess I gotta bump back. I bet you've been there before. Some fucking weirdo's like, hey, fist bump. And I'm like, all right, you know?
Now, and I'm supporting both of us because she just lost her job. We are like literally trying to get help from the government so that we can know that we have the funds to get groceries. It's so hard, and it feels like it's not.
This is sad. Why is she crying, bro?
As accessible as people make it seem.
What we missed a chapter here. I feel like this upsetting her this much.
To have everything stripped away from you.
Oh, she's probably thinking about how she didn't have like she's got some trauma shit going on.
And to not know where you're gonna sleep. It's just very difficult.
Bro,
you know, it almost feels like a past life of having like everything. You know, I had bags. I had to take my little Michael Kors bags to the pawn shop, take every item of clothing that I had to Plato's Closet so I could buy.
That's really sad. Fist bump? Sad fist bump? Give me that sad fist bump.
A one-way ticket for myself and my child. I didn't know what we were going to eat. I didn't know where we were going to sleep. And not to be a victim, but it's not my fault why I'm here. You know, it's because I speak out against cult behavior. I speak out against pedophilia. And publishing my story has the...
Yeah, she kind of stole that guy's thunder. Yeah, he's like, yeah, man, he's probably like legitimately upset. He's like, yeah, man, I'm struggling to pay for my shit. And she starts crying. And I know that her shit's worse than his, but it's like, this guy's just like, the first thing he's really trying to talk about, you know what I mean? It's like his struggles, which are worse than probably most of our struggles that are in this chat. And then this girl's like, and it's not her fault. But it really does just take away from his fucking thunder. He's like, yeah, man, my girl or my partner, I don't know, he didn't specify, lost their job, and you know, like I'm struggling, and we're trying to get on EBT, and this girl just starts fucking crying, and he's like, God damn it, he can't be upset about his struggle now. It's just it's sad. It's a sad situation.
The domino effect of that has led me to not knowing where I'm going to eat, and I've never had that happen to me before prior to 4 months ago, and that's just really tough.
Thank you for sharing your story. That's really powerful. And yeah, like if you need help, like after this, let's just talk. That
if you need help after this, just give me a fist bump, bro.
pulls on my heartstrings because my mother raised us 3 kids by herself, and my father was a wife beater. He was also a child molester. So anyone listening can connect the dots.
Every time I fucking laugh, I get somebody brings up a horrible abusive scenario. I feel like such a piece of shit.
What's on that? I feel for you.
I almost wanted to jump out because it was only a short period of time, just that short period of time when you're busted.
What happened to you, Bill?
And you're just like, whatever, but you guys were like in the real thick of it.
You know, it's kind of interesting. It sounds like this guy wants to be empathetic and like give charity to her, which I think is great. I think it's a great thing, especially since, people who were poor and then they become rich are probably better people than people who were rich because they still get it. Like if you've ever struggled in your life, you understand struggle more than people who haven't. But it's interesting that like we have to rely on charity to help people. Like in a theoretically like ideal world, charity wouldn't exist. You would just allocate the correct resources to people where they needed to be relocated. But unfortunately, like, charity takes over, and it's just something to keep up, something to think about, man.
You guys are in the trenches. I visited the trenches for like a couple
You had a
months.
toe.
I had a toe in the trenches, you know?
So I'm getting paid paycheck to paycheck, and on top of that, I have a crippling gambling addiction. I'm addicted to weed. I'm addicted to alcohol. I'm addicted to vaping, and as
Vaping, and this comes into like a thing where it's like some of those problems are your fault. But I understand addiction can be very frustrating, and they can be hard to work through. It's not as easy as yes or no. This would be a lack of. You probably say this is probably a lack. I mean, like honestly, this is a good argument for like healthcare. This person needs to go to see a therapist to help move them through all these addictions. But how the fuck are you addicted to vaping and weed? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you vaping, bro? Like fucking Chemical X? You know? Yeah, I know self-discipline is a really good thing, but like sometimes self-discipline isn't like always enough, man. There are some people who are just have addictive personalities, and they have predispositions towards, you know, doing bad things. Or doing addictive thing, like doing drugs and alcohol and gambling, etc. And it's hard to just like break the cycle. It's a bizarre mental response. And I think if you haven't been addicted to something in some capacity before, that it's difficult for you to just be like, oh yeah, it's all her fault. And like it's not necessarily all her fault. There is a willpower issue there. Obviously, absolutely. We can't dismiss that, because if we dismiss the willpower issue there, then what you're saying is she has no control, or they have no control over their own life, which is a bad mentality to get into, because then you're just going to have a victim complex and you're going to continue to do a bad thing. But also, you know, it's difficult to manage, and people need resources to help them manage it, you know?
as soon as I have that direct deposit, it's like I have no control. Almost like I black out and I start gambling, start ordering drinks, start ordering weed, and then I come out of that.
I just don't think weed's addictive. Maybe like mentally addictive. Like I want to smoke weed to feel better, but
control feeling, and I'm like thinking, how am I going to feed my pets this week? My cat, my dog. Like I had all these plans.
Bro, throw those dogs out. Now you don't have an addiction to dogs. Throw those fucking things. I'm not trying to be an asshole. Put them in a shelter or something. If you can't even take care of yourself, what the fuck are you doing with dogs? My webcam keeps doing this fuzzy thing, bro. It's annoying.
Plans up to my payday before I know it, all my money's gone, and it's addiction.
When you're in a position when you don't have a lot of money, you can't do a lot of things for fun, and you're often just like working. I have to survive, I have to feed myself. And so when you get that paycheck and you have just a little bit of enough money to do something that will spark joy for you, it's so hard to be like, no, I'll put it aside to save. It's like, I'll just do this one thing for myself, I'll just treat myself. And then it's like, well, now it's gone. Now.
All it takes is like one bad day too. I used to be in that situation where like I was spending a lot of money. I was the only one working with a partner I was with. You try to save like $20 a week, and then your car, something fucks up in your car, and there goes all the money you spent plus more, and you're just racking up credit card debt, bro. It's rough.
I completely understand what you're saying, and I used to think like that too, but I also thought about how joyful it would be to be rich. I would rather not have that.
You gotta put the energy into. If you don't want, you just don't want it enough. Okay.
Instant gratification, because the gratification of being infinitely stable or more stable is more important. My name is Brittany. I am a stable or more stable is more important. My name is Brittany. I am a holistic.
Why did they use that camera angle? I feel like that they really shit, bro. I feel like that wasn't that they didn't use that for everybody. Damn, bro. Okay. Shit. Got me thirsty, dude.
Holistic health practitioner, and I make around $130,000 a year. My relationship.
Is that rich? 130? What is rich anymore? I'm so confused. I have to rewind this. Wait, what is
stable or
how
more
do they define
stable
rich?
Is more important. My name is Brittany. I am a holistic.
How do they define rich, bro?
Health practitioner, and I make around $130,000 a year.
That doesn't sound rich. I mean, that sounds like upper middle class for sure, but is that rich?
My relationship with my brother has literally crumbled since have acquired more money. He only calls me when he needs something. The only person that I really have a relationship with is my mom. I haven't spoken to my brother.
That's sad, bro.
I want them to be happy and, and successful more than anything. But it almost feels dehumanizing to be looked at as just the help and not a sister or a cousin or something like that, yeah.
My name is Mia, and I'm currently working as a customer service representative for a moving and storage company. I make $45K a year. My
Where does she live?
family has always been like, oh, you gotta look presentable, you gotta look nice.
Do they all live in California? That's not that bad. I mean, California, that's rough. I used to make $45K a year. But if you had like a partner making the same amount of money, it's more manageable. I feel like that's not like poor to me. That's not really poor. Maybe lower middle class, because if they do live in California,
Whenever we're going out to eat or to the mall, but as an adult,
I don't know, man. Yeah, she's gambling in a way. That's true. I think that's probably the bigger problem. Yeah.
a lot of my money isn't going towards buying new clothes or jewelry, makeup, whatever it might be. So you'll catch me in like sweats and a t-shirt, and I just don't feel presentable enough to be at the mall, to be at a restaurant, because of that embarrassing feeling and shame of not.
Well, you probably shouldn't go to the mall or the restaurant if you have no money. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just saying, like, I'm just saying. Sometimes you got to live within your means, dog.
Investing more in how I present myself.
The disagreeer.
You're just hanging out back there.
I feel like I misunderstood the prompt.
So have you ever worried about where your next meal was going to come from? Ever?
Oh, no, I definitely have. Like when I was in college, I was trying to buy groceries, and the lady behind me ended up paying groceries for me, and it's so embarrassing because my card got maxed out and I had no money in the bank account, basically.
$15 an hour is not enough for minimum wage.
Uh-oh, here we go. We're going to see a lot of fucking problems here. We're going to have here's the thing. Okay, first of all, you have to have a definition of what does minimum wage mean to you. Some people, and I disagree with this, minimum wage means you should be able, is just the wage you get for some bullshit ass work. Right? Minimum, it's not meant to be a livable wage. I think it should be a livable wage. Now, the quality of life doesn't have to be amazing. I think that you should be able to potentially get together with somebody, a partner or a friend, and you should be able to rent out like a comfortable living space that's not infested with fucking rats, and you should be able to afford to make your food at home and have like reasonably nice things. You should be able to have like a phone. I think it's somewhat essential now. Doesn't mean you need to have the greatest, newest fucking iPhone though, So I think that like we should have a livable wage. Now, I personally come from the area of the frame of thought where I don't think that we need to have a minimum wage that pays for people to live to have a livable wage. I think that we should be able to, with a minimum wage combined with like a universal basic income, you should be able to have a livable wage. I believe in that. I think it's easier to redistribute wealth with that. Because some small businesses, a lot of them, can't afford to pay $15 an hour, and you could put them out of business. And you're really just advocating at that point for monopolies, right? Like a small business, you got a mom and pop shop. They might not be able to afford to pay $15 an hour, right? And so, like, if you force them to have to pay $15 an hour, that could put them out of business. Whereas a bigger business like McDonald's, they can afford to pay $15 an hour, but you know what? They can also afford to offset those jobs that are raising to that wage with technology, which they're already doing. I believe now or next year, every single McDonald's in the United States will have self-checkout, like self-kiosks checkouts. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's gone, but that means that that's jobs that are disappearing because you can self-checkout now. Every bit of technology is good because it lowers prices, and then it's also bad because it gets rid of a job, because how do you lower the price? And so, like, this is where we get into these big issues, which is why I'm not a big advocate for drastically raising the minimum wage by $1.50 a year, which is what you want, $7.50 to $15. I'm more of an advocate for like a UBI offset. Yeah. So let's see what we got here. Wait, hold on. What was the question again?
For minimum wage.
Oh, it's not enough. Okay, so these people think it's not enough.
I did have a question for you two. You both mentioned that you suffer from addiction, and that as soon as you get a paycheck, it's gone, whether it's gambling or weed or shopping or whatever. If you had a higher income, would that change?
Personally, yes, because the whole reason I gamble is like, let me get that $60,000 win and I'll stop gambling. That's my mindset, right?
Probably, but but no. Unless you're going to take those resources and see like a mental health professional, it's not going to change. This is a very, very common perspective from gambling addicts. They say, I just need my big win and I'll stop. No, it's not true. You hear it every fucking time. No, yeah, now how can I turn this 60K into 200K? Yep. This person has issues that are far beyond what's going on. Their wage is probably reasonable enough if they weren't addicted to different things. But she's an addict, or I don't know. They need mental health counseling, and probably to escape whatever area they're in. They probably need to like move too, potentially, and like have less access to these things. And there also needs to be willpower. There's a lot of different things that they need. Yeah, so like, no, I don't think more money would really help this person necessarily, unless it was so much more money that them blowing through it all wouldn't matter. You know, I don't think that it would help this person.
And another thing is, I feel like if I were to have like,
because you notice that they didn't say like, oh yeah, I could use it for therapy. They're not even like recovery minded. You know, like,
would that change?
Personally, yes, because the whole reason I gamble is like, let me get that $60,000 win and I'll stop gambling. That's my mindset, right? And another thing is, I feel like if I were to have like passive income, I guess you can say, or be financially stable, I can pursue and distract myself with my actual passions. Like, I want to start a true crime YouTube channel, but I don't have the laptop, I don't have the camera. The addiction takes.
Come on, you know what I'm saying? Come on. I want to do this, but I don't have this. You probably could get those things, but like you're spending it on bullshit, like fucking addictions. Like this person, I don't like the if only mentality. If only I had this, you know what I'm saying? Like even if you started a fucking true crime, whatever, probably not going to be successful. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like the majority of the time, it's a shot in the dark. It's a hobby at first, and then if it takes off, that's great. Like that's how I started this. I was working a full-time job and doing Twitch. It was a hobby. Now I'm able to do this. Good for me, but you got to fucking have a backup.
Takes control, so I don't think about the things I don't have, and I just feel numb and thoughtless, and I'm just enjoying my TV. And so yeah, I feel like it would change. I would be able to have other distractions that are beneficial to me in a positive way.
I just don't think so. I don't think so. It just doesn't sound realistic for that person specifically.
If you had more money, you could probably have access to help, like medical help.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
You know, psychiatrist.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's really expensive, and you can't afford.
Yeah, exactly. I could have access to that thing, but they're not even thinking about that. It's not even a fucking thought in their head.
Living off of minimum wage, you know.
I feel like a lot of jobs will pay minimum.
Dude, in the beginning, I used a real shitty microphone. I had a headset. And people still watched my stuff. It's so interesting. Because I got big on, the thing is I got big on TikTok first. But my TikTok, I had an old Galaxy like shit phone. It was a $130 smartphone. I started on TikTok. I got like 800,000 followers with that shitty smartphone. I got lucky, but like those, then I have a nice phone now. I have like an iPhone, whatever, 11 or something, whatever. Because I was successful and I was able to do it. And this helped me more. My quality went up so people would watch more. But it's like the 80-20 rule. You know, like people will watch you for like you, honestly. Like if you don't need all the bullshit. Like if you're just starting, if you're somebody who people will like or they're kind of like their content, they'll be drawn to you before you become like majorly successful. And if you do well, you can get a better thing. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's most of the people. You don't need to start with like the tippy top greatest fucking thing in the entire world. You can start off with low, with like okay stuff, and then that can blow up. And you blow up, and then you have more money to invest in stuff. Was my content all political? No, I actually started TikTok trying to make jokes. And then I talked about a lot of like political takes and whatnot because it was really big. I blew up over the summer last year. Like, you know, everything was going on with like the racial shit and George Floyd and everything. So I was like a progressive and I also made jokes. And then the year ended and I started gravitating more towards jokes again. Like I wanted to, because I didn't really want to do politics. So, you know, and now here we are. We do a little bit of we do some fun stuff. We do some politics sometimes, but sometimes we just act like sussy, shit like that.
Minimum wage, but they will.
Now I'm a leftist. Yep. Keemstar says I'm a leftist.
Expect maximum effort. And I'm like, if you're going to pay me minimum wage, I'm putting in the bare minimum effort.
I've always looked at it the opposite way. Like if I go into a company and they're paying me minimum wage, I do everything that I can to get promoted. Hi, my name is Todd. I am 29 years old. I am a real estate investor and a YouTuber, and I make about $1.4 million per year. When you grow up
He's a YouTuber? Where's your YouTube, bro?
the way I did with no money and your mom is struggling and crying herself to sleep every night because you can't pay the bills, that takes a toll on you as a kid and seeing that struggle. I got my first job when I was 12 years old.
Yeah, I have a lot more fun without doing the political stuff. Sometimes I feel like it's necessary to do. But like most of the time I don't. Like this video is becoming more political, but it's just the nature of the video. But I'm not like a huge politics fan, you know?
Literally shoveling horse poop for $3 an hour. And I looked at
You chuckled when you said your mom and then paused.
myself when I was 12 years old and I was like, you've got to make $1 million a year by the time you're 30.
My name is Sean. I'm 23 years old.
I made $1 million. I wish I made $1 million, bro. This next year will be the year. You know, next year I'll make $1 million. Okay. And then I'll do a Fortnite dance.
a musician and content creator, and I'm
Just a fucking musician, bro.
My name is Sean. I'm 23 years old. I'm a musician and content creator, and I make minimum wage at a retail job.
What do you minimum? Your content creator? What does that mean? That's one of those things, man. Like, I feel like you can't really say that you're a content creator if you're not really making money on it so much, or you're not like gaining traction or something. I don't know. Maybe that's just my shitty perspective. But like I used to, when I was younger, I used to work 2 jobs a lot. Like I would be in and out of working 2 jobs. Like there was periods where I worked 2 jobs, or I would work a job and go to school. You know what I mean? Like I'd have a lot of different periods of that. Like I did Uber for a while. I did resets. It's like a reset shelves. I don't know if you guys know what that is. You reorganize like shelves for things. I would do it for like fucking Stop and Shop and A&P for a while I was working my other job, and then I worked at like Five Below while I was working another job, and then I would go to school, and then I would do Uber, and then I would do all these different things while I worked another job. I didn't have time for hobbies when I was younger. How was Uber? It was okay. It depended. There were days where I did really well. There were days where I did really poorly. But I didn't really have time for hobbies because I had to work to make money because I was hemorrhaging money. And I was with somebody that didn't work. This was a long time ago when I was doing Uber, you know. And then I got lucky doing my job and then content creating. From my perspective, I understand it can be very difficult and you can struggle, but like if you're working a retail job and then you're doing other things on the side, hobbies, and you're not making money, then you need to reorient yourself. Work another job or something. Figure something out. Maybe the job doesn't exist, but like 9 times out of 10 they probably do. Like I said, you can do Uber or DoorDash. You don't need a good car for like something like that. It's not great to do these things. I'm not saying that like this is amazing, but if you're struggling financially, the system exists shittily regardless of whether you're trying or not. So do your best to thrive in a shit system. That's all you can really do. So, you know, work your retail job, maybe get another part-time job, or I don't know, maybe do fucking porn. I don't know, OnlyFans. But you get what I'm saying. I feel like if you're in a situation where you have a job where you're making minimum wage and you're not trying to get another job and you have time for hobbies, you might have like an incorrect mindset for some shit. You know, I'm just saying. Have I had any sponsors? I don't know, Raid Shadow Legend reach out. I don't really care about sponsors.
If I
maybe like a beard or something I would do. I don't know.
It wasn't having to work every day.
I have to like actually give a shit about the thing. I don't want to like just jump into some bullshit. Not everyone can do OF, true. You know.
Pay my rent, then I would have more time to make music and connect with people and find venues to perform my music. Time to retail job. If I wasn't having to work every day to pay my rent, then I would have more time to make music and connect with people and find venues to perform my music. And if I had the money, I would be able to market and promote my music so that
I hate that mentality, man. If I just had this mentality, you can work. A lot of people work full-time jobs and they work on their hobbies to try to make them successful. Like, and especially since a lot of these things happen at night. A lot of these venues want nighttime shit. So, like, you going around to a business saying, like, hey, do you guys have, like, a night where I could play? Or I can give you, like, it's not that expensive to go on the computer and print out, like, go buy a stack of CDs and say, like, here's my resume and give it out. Or put stuff up on YouTube of you playing a song and say, hey, this is my resume. Can I work in such and such? I understand everything's not as easy as I'm saying, but it sounds like this guy's like, yeah, if I didn't have to work a job, I could just do music all the time. It doesn't mean your music's good, man. You might suck dick. I'm like, it happens. I'm not even criticizing you because listen, bro, I suck at shit too. But you can't just go around and being like, oh, if I didn't have to work, I could do this. You could do that and you could work. If you gave a shit about your hobby, you can do your hobby and you can work at the same time. You may not be able to do all the same opportunities you would, but you know what? You also don't know if you're any good. So like this, I'm not really empathetic towards this guy. It sounds like he just doesn't really want to work in general, even on his own fucking hobby. There's always like an excuse. And it's kind of a bullshit excuse.
I could reach a wider audience.
For me, my mindset is working minimum wage is always temporary. It's always been like, okay, we work minimum wage, but we're going to work harder to get promoted, and then we're going to do something else with our lives.
Many, many, many years ago, you could go live off the land. You didn't have to work for somebody in order to survive. All the land is taken. It's in federal land. You can't go fishing in these federal streams. You can't do that. So that's not possible at scale. In order to survive, you must work for someone else. That forces wages down, right? People can't just go, F you, I'm not going to work. I'm going to chill and work on my novel or do whatever. So that's the part where
my brother has had a band since he was in high school. He's 32 now. He works his butt off. He still has his band and does shows. They're good. They've opened for popular bands, but they haven't hit big enough. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, right. It sounds like your brother works really hard and he's good at music and he's still like struggling. Whereas this other guy probably, I don't even know if he's good or not, and he doesn't work really hard. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the work, if you're willing to put the work in, like you can succeed. Sometimes people, that's what I'm talking about before, where like the system is fucked, but like some people just have that loser mindset where it's just like they won't work hard enough, man. I'm just saying, I've been there, I get it, but I'm just saying, maybe fucking, I don't know, bro, make a TikTok or something. But if you can't get successful, maybe you just suck and you have to do a regular person job like this other guy.
I agree with you on like, I'm a supporter of UBI so that people aren't forced or do whatever. So that's the part where I agree with you on like, I'm a supporter of UBI so that people aren't forced to work.
Nice.
And where I disagree is that we don't pay people based on what they need. And you were kind of pointing to this. I give the minimum effort if you pay me minimum wage. But there's certain jobs that are not worth $15 an hour, just frankly not worth it. Maybe they're worth $5, maybe they're worth $2. I want you to watch.
Well, I mean, I'm not that, I wouldn't say $2 an hour. UBI plus minimum wage, you know what I mean?
TV for an hour in your house and tell me how many commercials come up, because I'm doing a survey. I'm gonna pay you $7 an hour. You think I should have to pay you $15 an hour for that? Or would you take $7 an hour to sit on your couch and count commercials that show up on the television?
I mean, yeah, I would take any money.
Okay, so everybody here agreed that it should be $15 an hour minimum wage. Yeah. But by making the wage $15 an hour, you just eliminated a job that he's willing to do.
I kind of get what he's saying. But I like that he likes the UBI offset. You know what I mean? Like, that makes sense to me.
Money, more problems.
That guy seems like a dick, a bit of a dick. Yeah, maybe. I don't really care. I feel like some people, you gotta work more, I guess. Not like work more, but like interact with different people. I've had bosses that were like really blunt, especially like my Hispanic boss. He was a foreman named Lou. He was a hard-ass motherfucker, He's a great guy, though. I love him. He's a great guy. He's actually one of my best bosses. And I say Hispanic because like I've had my white bosses are like, oh, they're so nice. Oh, blah, blah, blah. But like they're not as good. You know what I'm saying? My foreman was like a ride or die. He was kind of an asshole, but like if you needed something, he was like right there. You know what I'm saying, bro? So sometimes you just got to get to know other people, bro. Different mentalities.
More money, more problems.
We got here. More money, more problems, bro. I got 99 problems, but a woman ain't one. I mean, I don't know, bro. I feel like more money, more problems. Like, I mean, you got different problems. I feel like that was just like a one-liner in a song, and it's not like more problems. You have other problems. You get different problems. I'd rather have the more money, more. I'd rather have the more problems with the money than the problems with the money. Because like the problem with more money is like, oh, I had to pay more money in taxes. The problem with having less money is like, oh, I can't afford my fucking car to get to work.
More money, more problems, but that's a path that I'm willing to take on because the problems that come along with not having money, I can't imagine going back there. I made it a point to position myself to people who I felt like I could learn from. I remember parking my little Chevy Cruze up off of Griffith Observatory in Hollywood Hills just to be around money.
I believe it was Notorious B.I.G. who said, mo money, mo problems, bro.
You guys mind if I start?
Yeah, please.
A lot of the problems.
Guys, can I please speak?
Money.
You guys mind if I start?
Yeah. Please.
A lot of the problems in my life would be solved with just not even if I was rich, but just like a little bit more money, I would just have so much less stress and less things to worry about. And
I agree with that, but maybe another job, bro.
wouldn't be finding
like an additional job.
myself in these situations where I'm worried about how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to get gas to drive?
I don't know. I'm like less empathetic towards this person after hearing them talk about their situation, man.
How am I going to eat?
Like I had a coworker once who worked a full-time job, where he was like a forklift operator, and then he worked a part-time job at my job where I was like the full-time. I was a fucking like whatever fucking bus cleaning manager. And like he worked 60 hours a week, bro, and he struggled financially because he had like kids and shit. And like that's fucked. Like that guy's doing everything that he could possibly do to make money, and he's still struggling. I'm empathetic to those people, not so much the people that are like, I work this job and like I still have somehow time to do my hobbies, but I can't be successful and I can't make money doing music because I have to work a full-time job. Most of those gigs are at nighttime, bro. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I'm saying?
More money, like more social responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't mention like, yeah, I have to work at night, so I can't do gigs. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't mention that at all. It's not even a factor to him. So he probably works during the day, like a traditional 9 to 5. Yeah.
Going back to
What does that mean?
like if you're a
What'd you say?
billionaire, like more social responsibility, right? Going back to
What does that mean?
Am I going to eat?
more money, like more social responsibility,
I mean, I guess so.
right? Going back to
What does that mean?
like if you're a billionaire, then you have social responsibility to take care of people who might have less than you.
Yeah, true. I agree that you should, though. Well, you should just have to redistribute your wealth a little better.
Really? I'm not seeing that. In modern day
You have
life.
billionaire beef.
In
You got a billionaire
modern day
beef.
life, what are billionaires?
I want to add real quick to what you were saying that I had my first felony when I was 14 years old.
I like how none of these poor people even agree with that fucking communist kid. They're just like, shut up, bro.
I had gotten a DUI in 2018, so I was still going in and out of courthouses. I'm struggling trying to get a job, applying, getting interviews, getting a job offer, background check, offer rescinded, and that hurts a lot. But
Well, you have a job that pays pretty decently. Okay.
I'm over here watching The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and Yolanda Hadid's daughter just so happens to also get a DUI, but she's taking off in her modeling career like it was just a hiccup. I'm also
Well, modeling is a little bit different from like a different job, but also like this person has a job and they work, and it's a decent job that pays like $45,000 a year. It could be better for sure, but you're not in the same situation as somebody who like went into the criminal justice system and can't get a fucking job. You're just not that person at all. You're somebody who's like, you have a decent job. It's very confused. It's just very bizarre.
also seeing cases of affluenza where this kid driving his dad's truck
that
drunk
one
killed
girl.
someone, and he gets off for affluenza, which
was like
means
8
you're
months
too
in
rich
prison.
to know what's good or bad.
I
So
don't know anything about that. Sounds like, yeah, there's an issue with rich people getting holding accountability for sure, but
you don't get any
Oh, I've
repercussions.
never.
Yeah, it
So
was
to
a
me-
Hollywood
the only true crime here those years. Stop, bro. Oh my god.
too.
I agree with my punishments. I messed up, and I will accept
But you
it.
want it to be fair treatment.
Exactly,
Yeah,
because
you've
when
done
I
your
see
time.
that, it's just
But it seems like she specifically is getting treated pretty fairly. Like she has a job. I'm a little confused. It's not even like a terrible job. It's like $45K a year. It's not horrible. Like again, I understand issues, but then like her problems are like she's an addict to like everything.
slap in the face. Like, what is the justice system? That's not justice.
Listen, I like the song More Money, More Problems.
I like it too.
It's a jam.
I love
But it's really more money, different problems.
Yes.
And that's a cut.
We did it.
Bro, the fucking music,
Love.
But it's really more money, different problems.
Yes.
And that's a
bro, terrified me.
cut.
We did it.
Bro, dude, I mean, I feel like there's a ghost in my fucking house. And what happens? This scary ass music plays. Scares the shit out of me.
That's a wrap.
Oh my god. I thought fucking Jigsaw was in my house or something, bro. Like fucking Chucky's gonna run me with a goddamn knife.
No, we don't cover software.
Dude, I'm actually scared, bro. Today's a scary day, dude.